Imagine having a pet tiger roaming free in your living room. For Dubai's richest family, that's not a dream. It's just Tuesday. These royals live a life so luxurious, it's almost hard to believe. But with all that wealth comes some pretty weird stuff. We're talking diamond-encrusted breakfast plates and rules that'll make you go, wait, what? It's a whole other world, and we're taking you inside. The Royal Palace, that's basically a city. So check this out. The Dubai royal family ain't playing around when it comes to their crib. They've got a whole city to themselves, and it's not just any city. This place is massive, like 7 times bigger than Vatican City. That's not a palace, that's a whole different level. Now you might be thinking, what do they even do with all that space? Well, let me tell you, they've got everything you could ever want, and then some. We're talking private beaches where they can soak up the sun without any paparazzi around. They've got helipads scattered all over the place, cause why bother with traffic when you can just fly in? And get this, they've even got their own racetrack. Yeah, a full-on racetrack right in their backyard. But here's the kicker. You and me, we ain't getting anywhere near this place. It's totally off limits to regular folks. They've got security that makes Fort Knox look like a picnic. We're talking state-of-the-art systems, guards everywhere, and probably some crazy James Bond-style defenses we don't even know about. Now, if you somehow manage to get past all that security, which trust me you won't, you'd be stepping into a whole other world. It's like those fancy hotels you see in movies, but cranked up to 11. Gold is everywhere you look, on the walls, the floors, even the dang doorknobs. It's like King Midas went on a decorating spree. They've got rooms for everything you can think of. A room just for trying on shoes? Yep. A cinema that makes IMAX look tiny? You bet. They've probably got a room dedicated to counting all their money, who knows? And the gardens? Forget about it. They're so big and fancy, they make Central Park look like a window box. We're talking rare plants from all over the world, fountains that could probably supply a small country with water, and sculptures that cost more than most people's houses. But you want to know the craziest part? This palace city thing ain't even the most luxurious thing they've got. It's just the tip of the iceberg. Wait till you hear about their fleet of gold cars. A fleet of gold-plated cars. Gold palaces are so last season. The real flex? Driving around in a 24-carat chariot. But here's the million-dollar question. How do you choose which golden ride to take for a milk run? The Dubai royals ain't playing when it comes to their wheels. They've got a whole fleet of cars that'd make your head spin. We're not talking about some fancy paint job here. Nah, these rides are decked out in real gold, like actual 24-carat gold plastered all over them. You name it, they've got it. Rolls Royces that shine brighter than the sun, Lamborghinis that look like they're straight out of King Midas's garage, Mercedes that'd make other luxury cars look like cheap toys. And get this, they don't just keep these golden beauties locked up in some fancy showroom. They actually drive them around town like it's no big deal. Imagine rolling up to the grocery store in a solid gold Bentley. You'd probably forget what you came for because you'd be too busy trying to find a parking spot where no one's gonna scratch your million-dollar paint job. But for the Dubai royals, that's just Tuesday. Now, here's where it gets really wild. They've got so many of these golden chariots that they sometimes forget where they parked them. Like, imagine losing your car in a parking lot, but it's a car worth more than most people's houses. That's the kind of problem these folks have. But wait, it gets even crazier. You think a fleet of gold supercars is impressive. How about a gold-plated tank? Yeah, you heard that right. They've got a tank, you know, the big military vehicle that crushes everything in its path, and they covered it in gold. 'Cause why not, right? Now you might be wondering about the maintenance on these things. I mean, keeping a regular car running smooth ain't cheap. So imagine the bill for a whole fleet of gold-plated supercars. But for the Dubai royals, that's just pocket change. They probably spend more on car washes in a month than most of us make in a year. But you know what? This golden fleet is just the beginning. It's like the appetizer before the main course. 'Cause if you think cruising around in a gold Bugatti is wild, just wait till you hear about how they fly. Their air fleet is so insane, it makes these gold cars look like kids' toys. But that's a story for another time. Private jets with swimming pools. You thought those golden cars were wild? Hold on to your seats, 'cause we're about to take off into a whole new level of luxury. Ever wondered what it'd be like to do laps in a pool while cruising at 40,000 feet? For Dubai's royals, that's just another Tuesday. These guys ain't messing around when it comes to flying. They've got private jets that make Air Force One look like economy class. We're talking about planes with actual swimming pools inside. Yeah, you heard that right, swimming pools. in the sky. But that's not even the craziest part. These jets are basically flying mansions. They've got bedrooms that'd make five-star hotels jealous, dining rooms bigger than your whole apartment, and gyms that'd put your local fitness center to shame. It's like they took a luxury penthouse and strapped some wings on it. Now let's talk about that pool for a sec. Imagine chilling in crystal clear water, sipping on a fancy drink while you're zooming through the clouds. That's a whole new level of baller. And you know they've got some high-tech stuff to keep that water from sloshing around during takeoff and landing. But here's the kicker. It ain't just one jet. Nah, these royals have got a whole fleet of these flying palaces. It's like they've got a different one for each day of the week. And each one of these bad boys costs more than most people will make in 10 lifetimes. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars for one plane. You'd think having a jet like this would be a big deal, right? Something you'd brag about? But for the Dubai royals, it's just another day in the air. They hop on these planes like we catch the bus. Need to pop over to Paris for lunch? No problem. Just grab the jet with the marble bathroom. Feeling like a swim on your way to New York? Take the one with the pool. And you know they've got a whole crew to keep these flying mansions in tip-top shape. Pilots, flight attendants, chefs, probably even a pool guy. It's like a small army just to keep these things in the air. But you want to know the wildest part? These insane jets are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how these royals travel. Because if you think flying in a private jet with a pool is crazy, wait till you hear about their yacht collection. These floating palaces make their planes look like dinghies. But that's a whole other story. The $1 billion mega yacht. From sky-high swimming pools to floating fortresses, the Dubai royals don't do anything small. But what if I told you their biggest flex isn't in the air but on the water? We're talking about a yacht so massive and luxurious, it's practically its own country. This ain't just any boat, it's a $1 billion mega yacht. Yeah, you heard that right, a billion with a B. This thing is so expensive, it makes those golden cars look like cheap toys. It's longer than 2 football fields put together, which means you could probably land one of their private jets on it if you wanted to. But the size ain't even the craziest part. This floating palace has its own missile defense system. Like what? Who needs that on a boat? The Dubai royals, apparently. They're ready for a water war or something. Now let's talk about what's inside this beast. Forget everything you think you know about boats, because this thing's got stuff you wouldn't even dream of putting on water. There's a full-on nightclub inside. Imagine partying in the middle of the ocean with the same kind of setup you'd find in the fanciest clubs in Dubai. But that's not all. They've also got a movie theater, not just a big TV, but a real cinema. You could watch the latest blockbuster while cruising through the Mediterranean. And get this, there's even a submarine garage. Yeah, a place to park your submarine. Because apparently regular water toys are too boring for these folks. And don't even get me started on the bathrooms. All the fixtures are solid gold. The taps, the toilet, everything. It's like King Midas went wild in there. But when you've got a $1 billion boat, I guess regular porcelain just won't cut it. Here's the wildest part though. They barely even use this thing. It's like a floating vacation home that they visit once in a blue moon. Imagine spending $1 billion on something and then just letting it sit there most of the time. That's how rich these people are. But you want to know the real kicker? This mega yacht ain't even their only boat. It's just one of many in their collection. They've got so many boats they could probably start their own navy if they wanted to. So next time you feel fancy taking a ride on one of those tourist boats, just remember, somewhere out there, the Dubai royals are cruising around in a floating city worth more money than most of us will see in 100 lifetimes. But hey, at least we don't have to worry about missile attacks on our weekend fishing trips, right? A zoo in the backyard. Alright, so you thought the Dubai royals were wild with their $1 billion yacht. Wait till you hear about their backyard. These folks ain't just got a few dogs or cats running around, they've got a whole zoo. We're talking tigers, lions, elephants, the works. It's like they took a chunk of the Serengeti and plopped it right next to their palace. But this ain't no public zoo where you can buy a ticket and gawk at the animals. Nah, this is their private collection. It's like they went on a shopping spree at the exotic pet store and said, "We'll take one of everything." They've got animals you probably never even heard of, just chilling in their backyard. Now, you might be thinking, who takes care of all these animals? Well, the royals ain't about to start scooping elephant poop themselves. They've got a whole team of trainers and vets on staff 24/7. These folks are probably the best paid animal experts in the world, just to make sure the royal pets are happy and healthy. But here's where it gets really crazy. Sometimes they let these animals roam free in the palace. Yeah, you heard that right. Imagine waking up in the morning, stumbling to the kitchen for your coffee, and there's a tiger just chilling on the couch. For the Dubai royals, that's just a normal Tuesday. And don't even get me started on the food bill for these exotic pets. They're dropping millions every year just to keep these animals fed. We're talking about importing special diets from all over the world. Your cat's fancy feast ain't got nothing on this. But you want to know the wildest part? This whole private zoo thing is just a hobby for them. It's like how some people collect stamps, but instead of stamps, they collect giant, dangerous animals. And they probably spend more on tiger food in a month than most of us make in a year. Now you might be thinking this is the craziest thing about the Dubai royals, but trust me, it ain't. Because while their backyard's full of exotic animals, their vaults are full of something even wilder. We're talking about a jewelry collection that'd make the crown jewels look like cheap trinkets. But that's a whole other story. Jewelry that's out of this world. Remember those cheap mood rings that change color? Well, the Dubai royals laugh at that kind of stuff. Their jewelry doesn't just change color, it's literally not from this world. And get this, they've got so much bling they need a whole team just to keep track of it all. But there's one piece in their collection that's so heavy, you won't believe what they compare it to. These royals ain't playing around when it comes to their jewelry collection. We're talking about diamonds that came from outer space. Yeah, you heard that right. They've got rocks made from actual meteorites. It's like they decided regular Earth diamonds weren't fancy enough, so they had to go and get some space bling. But that's just the start. These folks have got necklaces that are worth more than some countries' entire economies. Like, you could probably buy a small island nation for what they're wearing around their necks. And the craziest part? They never wear the same piece twice. It's like a one-and-done deal with their jewelry. Wear it once, then never again. Talk about living large. Now let's talk about their crown jewels. They've got this one crown that's so heavy, it weighs more than a newborn baby. Can you imagine trying to keep your head up wearing that thing? It's probably got more diamonds on it than stars in the sky. But here's where it gets really wild. They've got so much jewelry, they needed to build a vault the size of a house just to store it all. We're not talking about a little safe in the closet. This is a whole building dedicated to keeping their bling safe. It's probably got more security than Fort Knox. And you know they ain't keeping track of all this stuff themselves. Nah, they've got a whole team of people whose only job is to manage their jewelry collection. These folks are probably experts in gemology, security, and maybe even space rocks. It's like a full-time job just making sure all the shiny stuff is where it's supposed to be. But you want to know the wildest part? This insane jewelry collection is just the tip of the iceberg for these royals. Because while they're busy collecting space diamonds, they're also amassing something else that's just as valuable. We're talking about an art collection that'd make the Louvre jealous, but that's a whole other story. An art collection worth billions. Ever wonder what happened to some of the world's most famous paintings? Turns out, they might be chilling in Dubai. The royal family's art collection is so massive and valuable, they've got a secret stash that would make museums weep. But that's not even the craziest part about how they handle their priceless art. So these Dubai royals ain't just into flashy cars and space diamonds, they're big on art too. We're talking about a collection that's worth billions. Yeah, you heard that right. Billions with a B. These folks have got paintings that are worth more than entire neighborhoods. Like, you could probably buy a small town for what they paid for just one of their artworks. And we ain't talking about some random paintings here. Nah, these are the real deal. We're talking originals from the biggest names in art history. Da Vinci, Van Gogh, Picasso, you name it, they probably got it. It's like they've got their own personal Louvre, but way more exclusive. But here's the wild part. Most of this crazy expensive art ain't even on display. Yeah, you'd think they'd want to show off all these masterpieces, right? But nope. They've got this secret underground vault where they keep the really valuable stuff. It's like Fort Knox, but for art. You gotta wonder what's down there that's too precious even for their palace walls. And get this, they've got a whole team of art experts on call 24/7. These ain't just regular art folks either. We're talking about the cream of the crop, the best in the biz. These experts fly in from all over the world just to check out the royals' latest purchases. Imagine being so rich you can just call up the world's top art expert and be like, "Hey, can you hop on a plane and come look at this painting I just bought?" But the craziest part, they're always buying more. It's like they're trying to collect all the world's great art or something. Every time a big painting goes up for auction, You can bet the Dubai royals are in on the action. They're probably spending more on art in a year than most museums do in a decade. And you know what's wild? This insane art collection is just a hobby for them. It's like how some people collect stamps or action figures, but instead of little pieces of paper or plastic toys, they're collecting priceless masterpieces. It's a whole different level of collecting. But as crazy as this art stuff is, it ain't even the wildest thing about how these royals live. Because while they're busy hiding away billion-dollar paintings, they're also doing something even crazier with their clothes. We're talking about a fashion habit that'd make even the biggest shopaholics head spin, but that's a whole other story. The no-repeat wardrobe rule. Imagine never wearing the same outfit twice, not because you forget, but because it's actually forbidden. That's just a normal Tuesday for Dubai's royal family. But the real shocker? What they do with all those barely worn designer threads. These royals ain't playing around when it comes to their wardrobe. They've got this wild rule where they can't wear the same outfit more than once. It's like they're living in some crazy fashion Groundhog Day. But instead of repeating the same day, they're making sure they never repeat an outfit. We're not talking about stuff from your local mall either. These folks are decked out in the fanciest designer gear you can think of. Gucci, Versace, Louis Vuitton, you name it, they've got it. And it ain't just one or two pieces. They've got enough clothes to dress a small country. And don't even get me started on their shoe collection. These royals have got more pairs than you can count. We're talking rooms full of shoes, all lined up like some kind of fancy footwear army. They probably got shoes they don't even remember buying. But here's where it gets really wild. After they wear something once, they don't just toss it in the back of their closet like the rest of us. Nah, they give it away. That's right, they wear these super expensive clothes once, and then they're done with them. You'd think they'd just be throwing all this fancy stuff in the trash, but that ain't the case. They've actually got a whole system set up to donate their barely worn designer gear. It's like they're running their own high-end thrift store, but everything's only been worn once. Now let's talk about their closets for a sec. These ain't your regular walk-in closets. We're talking about spaces bigger than most people's entire houses. They've got rooms dedicated just to ties, others just for watches. It's like a department store, but it's all just for them. They've even got staff whose whole job is just to manage their clothes. These folks are probably busier than most fashion designers, just keeping track of what's been worn and what hasn't. But you know what's crazy? This whole no-repeat rule ain't even the wildest thing about how these royals live. Because while they're busy playing fashion musical chairs with their clothes, they're also doing some pretty insane stuff to keep themselves looking good. We're talking beauty treatments that'd make your jaw drop, but that's a whole other story. Gold-infused beauty treatments. Ever wonder what $1 million face looks like? The Dubai royal family's beauty treatments are so over the top, they make Hollywood celebs look like they're using drugstore brands. We're talking about facials that cost more than luxury cars, and that's just their Tuesday morning routine. These royals ain't messing around when it comes to their skincare. They've got creams and serums with actual gold in them. Yeah, you heard that right. They're literally putting gold on their faces. And it ain't just a little sprinkle either. We're talking about masks made with 24-karat gold flakes. It's like they're trying to turn themselves into human Oscar statues or something. But that's just the start. These folks are taking beauty treatments to a whole new level. They've got facials where they use diamond dust as an exfoliant, like actual crushed up diamonds to scrub their skin. Most people can't even afford a tiny diamond ring, but these royals are rubbing diamonds all over their faces like it's no big deal. And don't even get me started on their baths. Forget about bubble bath. These people are soaking in champagne, not the cheap stuff either. We're talking about baths filled with the most expensive bubbly you can imagine. It's like they looked at a fancy restaurant menu and thought, yeah, I'll bathe in that. Now you might think these crazy treatments are for special occasions, right? Nope, this is their everyday routine. They're doing this gold and diamond stuff more often than most of us wash our faces. They've got a whole team of beauty experts living in the palace just to keep up with their skincare needs. These beauty pros ain't your regular salon folks either. The royals fly in the best of the best from all over the world. We're talking about makeup artists who usually work on Hollywood stars, skincare gurus who've written books, and spa experts who usually run fancy resorts. All these people living in the palace, just waiting to give the royals their daily gold facial or champagne bath. But let's talk about their perfumes for a sec, because this is where it gets really wild. Each bottle of their signature scents costs more than a house. Not a small house either. We're talking about fragrances that cost more than most people's entire life savings. They probably spend more on smelling good in a month than most of us make in a year. You'd think with all this crazy beauty stuff, they'd be done, right? But nah, this is just the tip of the iceberg, because while they're busy turning their skin to gold and bathing in bubbly, they're also doing some wild stuff with their food. We're talking about dining habits that'd make even the fanciest restaurants look like fast food joints. But that's a whole other story. Dining on gold plates. Ever wonder what $1 million face looks like? The Dubai royal family's beauty treatments are so over the top, they make Hollywood celebs look like they're using drugstore brands. But that's nothing compared to their dining habits. These folks don't just eat fancy food, they eat it off plates worth more than your house. We're talking solid gold dinnerware here, not just gold-plated stuff, but actual 24-karat gold plates, forks, knives, and even glasses. It's like King Midas went on a shopping spree in the kitchenware aisle. And get this, they don't just have one set. Nah, that'd be too simple for the Dubai royals. These folks have different gold sets for different cuisines. Italian night? There's a special gold set for that, probably with some fancy Italian designs. Craving sushi? They've got another gold set just for Japanese food. It's like they're playing dress up with their plates, but each outfit costs millions. But here's where it gets really wild. They've got a whole team of people whose only job is to polish all this gold stuff. Imagine spending your days just making sure the royal forks are shiny enough. These plate polishers probably make more than most of us do in a year, just for keeping the dinnerware sparkly. Now, you might be thinking, okay, gold plates are crazy, but what about the food? Well, let me tell you, the food they put on these golden plates is a whole other level of insane. We're talking about dishes that cost more than a car, but that's a story for another time. And you know what's nuts? All this gold dinnerware ain't even the craziest thing about how these royals eat. Because while they're busy eating off plates worth millions, they've also got some of the best chefs in the world on speed dial. We're talking Michelin star level cooking, 24/7. These chefs ain't your regular cooks either. They're like the special forces of the culinary world. They can whip up anything from anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. Craving authentic Italian at 3 a.m? No problem. Want some super rare Japanese dish that only 3 people in the world know how to make? They've got a guy for that too. But wait till you hear about their personal chefs. These guys are so fancy, they make Gordon Ramsay look like he's flipping burgers at a fast food joint. But that's a whole other story. Michelin star chefs on standby. You thought those fancy restaurants with Michelin stars were impressive? Well, the Dubai royals have taken it to a whole new level. They've got those same world-class chefs cooking for them at home. We're not talking about some guy who once worked at a nice restaurant. Nah, these are the creme de la creme of the culinary world, and they're on call 24/7. These chefs ain't just making your average home-cooked meals. They can whip up anything from anywhere in the world at a moment's notice. Craving authentic Italian pasta at 3 a.m? No problem. Want some super rare Japanese delicacy? They've got you covered. It's like having the best restaurants in the world right in your kitchen. But here's where it gets really wild. Sometimes these royals ain't satisfied with just having the best chefs. They want the best ingredients too. So what do? They fly them in from across the globe. We're talking about fish that was swimming in the ocean off Japan just hours ago, now sitting on a plate in Dubai. That's some next level fresh. And if they're in the mood for a specific dish, they don't just ask their chefs to make it. Nah, they fly in the chef who invented it. It's like if you wanted a Big Mac, but instead of going to McDonald's, you got the guy who created it to come to your house and make it for you. That's how these royals roll. But you want to know the weirdest part? Sometimes, even with all these fancy chefs and exotic ingredients, they get bored. And what do when they're tired of gourmet meals? They order fast food. Yeah, you heard that right. These folks with personal Michelin star chefs sometimes just want a greasy burger and fries. Imagine being one of those world-class chefs, trained for years in the finest culinary arts, and your boss tells you they want a pizza delivered. It's like having a Ferrari but choosing to ride a bike. But that's just how it goes when you're royalty, I guess. You'd think having the world's best chefs at your beck and call would be the craziest thing about how these royals live. But trust me, it ain't. Because while they're busy flying in ingredients from halfway across the world, they've also got some pretty wild stuff going on with their pets. We're talking exotic animals that'd make a zoo look boring. But that's a whole other story. Exotic pets with designer collars. Ever wondered what it's like to have a tiger as a house pet? For the Dubai royal family, that's just another Tuesday. But here's the real kicker. These exotic animals are living a life of luxury that'd make most humans jealous. The Dubai royals ain't messing around when it comes to pets. They've got tigers, lions, and cheetahs just chilling in their palace. These ain't your average house cats. We're talking big predators that could eat you for breakfast, but for the royals, they're just fluffy little companions. Now you might think these animals are kept in some fancy cages or something. Nah, that's too basic for the Dubai royals. These wild beasts are roaming free in the palace like they own the place. Imagine walking into the kitchen for a midnight snack and bumping into a leopard. That's just a normal night for these folks. But here's where it gets really wild. These animals ain't just running around naked. Nope, they're decked out in designer gear that costs more than your car. We're talking Gucci collars for tigers, Versace leashes for lions. It's like a fashion show, but with animals that could rip your face off. And you know these royals ain't taking care of these pets themselves. They've got a whole team of vets on call 24/7. These animal docs are probably making more money than most human doctors, just to make sure the royal pets are happy and healthy. But that's not even the craziest part. These exotic pets ain't just for show. The royals actually play with them like they're regular house pets. They've got special rooms in the palace just for the animals to hang out in. It's like a zoo, but way fancier and way more dangerous. And get this, sometimes they take these animals out for walks. Yeah, you heard that right. Imagine seeing a dude walking a cheetah down the street like it's no big deal. That's just another day in Dubai for these royals. But you want to know the wildest part? This whole exotic pet thing ain't even the most luxurious aspect of their lives. Because while they're busy playing with tigers and dressing up lions, they've also got some insane vacation spots. We're talking private islands that'll make your jaw drop. But that's a whole other story. A private island getaway. Forget about five-star resorts. When the Dubai royals need a break, they escape to a place so exclusive, it doesn't even have a fixed shape. Imagine an island that transforms at your whim. Sounds impossible. Not for this family. Their vacation spot is about to redefine what you thought money could buy. So when these royals want to get away from it all, they don't just book a fancy hotel. Nah, they've got their own private island. This ain't some little patch of sand either. We're talking about a place that looks like it's straight out of those travel magazines you see at the dentist's office. White sand beaches that stretch for miles, water so clear you can see right to the bottom. It's like paradise, but cranked up to 11. But here's where it gets really wild. They can change the shape of the island whenever they want. Yeah, you heard that right. They've got these crazy machines that can move the sand around to make new beaches. It's like playing with the world's biggest sandbox. Bored of the beach on the north side? No problem. They'll just make a new one on the east. It's insane. And you know this place ain't just for sunbathing. The island's got everything you could ever want. We're talking water parks that'd make Disney World look like a kiddie pool. They've got golf courses that pro players would drool over. Fancy restaurants, spas, you name it, they've got it. It's like they took all the best parts of a luxury resort and crammed them onto one island. But here's the kicker. Sometimes they get bored of their shape-shifting island paradise. And what do when that happens? They buy a new one. Because when you're this rich, why have just one private island when you can have a whole collection? It's like they're playing real-life Monopoly, but instead of little plastic houses, they're buying actual islands. You'd think having your own private shape-shifting island would be the peak of luxury, right? But for the Dubai royals, that's just another Tuesday. Because while they're busy redesigning their beach, they've also got some wild plans that are literally out of this world. We're talking about taking their luxury lifestyle to a whole new planet. But that's a whole other story. Plans for a palace on Mars. Remember when going to space was just for astronauts? The Dubai royals are flipping that script. They're not just planning a quick trip to Mars, they're building a whole palace up there. And get this, it might be open for business sooner than you think. These folks ain't messing around when it comes to space real estate. They've got plans to build a legit palace on Mars. Yeah, you heard that right. The actual red planet. It's like they looked at Earth and thought, nah, this ain't fancy enough. Let's go to Mars. They ain't doing this alone either. The royals have got some serious brainpower behind this crazy idea. They're working with top scientists and engineers to make it happen. These are the kind of people who could probably build a rocket in their garage if they wanted to. Now, you might be thinking this is some far-off dream, right? Wrong. They're aiming to have this Martian mansion ready in about 20 years. That's sooner than most of us will pay off our student loans. But here's the real kicker. They don't just want this place for themselves. Nah, they're planning to make it a vacation spot for other loaded folks. Imagine dropping millions just to spend a weekend on another planet. It's like the ultimate flex for rich people. You'd think planning an interplanetary palace would be enough to keep them busy, but these royals are multitasking on a whole other level. While they're figuring out how to build on Mars, they're already picking out the furniture, like they're probably arguing over what kind of couch goes best with the Martian landscape. But that ain't even the craziest part. While they're busy planning their Mars getaway, they're also doing some wild stuff right here on Earth. We're talking about a house that's gonna make their Mars palace look like a cheap motel, but that's a whole other story. This Mars palace plan is next level crazy, even for the Dubai royals. It's like they're playing Sim City, but with actual planets. You gotta wonder what they'll come up with next. A vacation home on Jupiter? A shopping mall on Saturn? At this point, nothing would surprise me. The world's first billion-dollar home. You thought a palace on Mars was wild. Hold on to your wallets, cause the Dubai royals are about to make Earth look cheap. They're building something so insane it makes their space plans seem like child's play. We're talking about a house that's gonna cost more than some countries' entire economies. This ain't just any fancy pad. It's the world's first billion-dollar home. Yeah, you heard that right. $1 billion. That's 1,000 million. For a house. This place is so over the top, it's gonna make Buckingham Palace look like a little shack in the woods. But here's where it gets really crazy. This house ain't just big. It's got its own airport. Like, a whole airport just for this one house. You could land a jumbo jet there if you wanted to. And that's not even the wildest part. It's also got its own shopping mall. Imagine having an entire mall in your house. You'd never have to leave. But wait, there's more. These royals decided a mall wasn't enough, so they threw in a theme park too. A whole freaking theme park in their house. It's like they took Disneyland and said, yeah, let's put that in the backyard. Now you might be thinking, okay, but what about the view? Well, they thought of that too. Every single room in this crazy house is gonna have a perfect view of the city. It's like they designed the place with Instagram in mind. No bad angles here. And get this, they're using materials that haven't even been invented yet. It's like they time traveled to the future, grabbed some sci-fi building stuff, and brought it back just for this house. We're talking about walls that change color, floors that clean themselves, maybe even rooms that can teleport you. Who knows? But here's the kicker. They might not even live in it. Yeah, you heard that right. This billion-dollar mega mansion might just be for guests. It's like they built the world's fanciest hotel and decided to keep it all to themselves. Talk about a flex. It's like these royals are playing real-life Monopoly, but instead of little plastic houses, they're building actual palaces. And instead of fake money, they're throwing around billions like it's nothing. It's a whole other level of rich.